Hello and welcome to today's buyer's presentation. This presentation is specifically for those who are thinking about buying a new house or investment property for that matter, or are in the active process of doing so. And specifically, we're going to give you some information today that's going to help if you're unclear about the whole process, how to navigate the home buying process with confidence and clarity. So let me go ahead and get started with the presentation. I'm going to bring up a infographic, and we're just going to go step by step. There's about 8 steps involved, more or less 8 steps involved in buying a home. Whether you're buying a new home for the first time or you've bought multiple homes, the process is basically the same. And it all starts with first meeting with a real estate agent or broker like myself. And you may have recently heard of a action and a legal settlement between the National Association of Realtors and some major real estate brokerages across the nation. And basically, there was a class action lawsuit regarding um, commissions and how the seller, I don't want to get into a commission conversation or dialogue, but the process is basically the same. The only thing that's changed is that real estate agents can no longer advertise commissions on the MLS confidentially to other real estate agents. So as a selling agent, I'm no longer able to place the amount of commission the seller is willing to pay the buyer's broker and buyer's agent. That can no longer live on the MLS, and nothing else has really changed because real estate commissions have always been negotiable. There's been some traditional commissions and fees involved throughout the years. However, nothing has really changed other than the advertisement of the commission on the MLS, and now it's mostly negotiated in the purchase contract on the buyer side, and on the seller side, that's negotiated at the time that the seller and the selling agent enter into a listing agreement. But the thing that did change is from when you initially meet with a real estate agent to represent a buyer and help you search for properties, the first thing that agent is more than likely going to do, and now it's pretty much a standard across the nation, is that that agent is going to ask you to enter into a buyer representation agreement. And that there's a lot of levels to that, but that basically is proof to the other agents, to the selling agents and other agents out there that you're currently working with a real estate agent to represent you in searching and putting offers in on your search criteria. The next step you want to do is think about, after you meet with that initial agent and talk about the timeline and the process as we're doing right now, the next thing you want to do is figure out what your purchasing power is and how much of a house can you afford. And we call that pre-approval. And that's where you're going to either partner, have an association with a mortgage broker, or your local bank or credit union, where you're going to get pre-approved based on your income, your current. Also, they take in consideration your expenses, your other bills, and also what you have for a down payment. During this phase, you're going to really want to think about if you're eligible for any buying grants or buyers programs. There's a lot out there to assist with the purchase of real estate, and this is the time to start investigating and applying for those if you're a candidate for those grants and programs. But the biggest thing in this step, and we're looking at number 2 on this infographic, on this roadmap, is just getting pre-approved and understanding what you can afford for a down payment and what you can afford for a purchase price, and then also what your monthly mortgage, principal, interest, and then you could estimate your taxes and insurance off of that as well. So you get comfortable with the size and type of house you can afford, whether it's a single family, a condo, a townhome, or even an investment property. Number 3 on the list of your buyer's process, or your buyer's roadmap, is to start, after you understand what your purchasing power is and your budget, is to start searching for home. And this is the fun part. This is where your agent and you will start to define your search criteria. As I indicated, are you wanting a single family house? How many bedrooms and bathrooms? Or is it going to be a condo? Then you're going to start to look at different cities and neighborhoods where you would want to live. And there's a lot of ways to find these properties. It's very prevalent with the internet now. But some things, you got Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com, and there's hundreds of other real estate listing websites. But what the benefit of working with a real estate agent is a real estate agent has access not only to the MLS, where there's more information available, but also that real estate agent has a network of other agents who are in the know, so to speak, who there might be some coming soon properties that are not currently on the MLS, or the agent might have a pocket listing that we call it. Basically, a pocket listing is something that they've that they're shopping around, but is not currently on an MLS, and not too many people know about it. So they're kind of holding it to the side for some select buyers. And then there's also one thing you want to consider is real estate agents can help with new construction homes. If you're going to go to a new construction development who has their own sales office, just remember that agent can accompany you on the first visit and help you through that process. Although they do have dedicated salespeople, those salespeople in that office are the seller's agent. And you typically, when you're buying something, you want somebody who's going to represent your interest and not just the seller. So keep that in mind if you're looking at new construction homes too. And then what we want to do is really look at the market dynamics during step 3 when you're prior to making an offer. And what I mean is by market dynamics, this will help you prepare your offer a little better with more price appropriateness by looking at how many properties that you've identified, or how many properties like the one you have identified are currently active, and how long have they been active? Like, how long have they been on the market? We call it, the acronym I have on the screen is DOM. That stands for days on the market. How many active listings and how many days of the market on average have those listings been on the market? But what do we got that's pending? How many pending homes do we have? Things that are under contract, properties that are under contract but haven't actually closed escrow yet. And then how many properties have sold within the last 3 to 6 months? And by looking at all that data, we could kind of get an understanding of where the market is in terms of price, and where the market is in terms of how active it is, and how if it's a seller's market or if it's a buyer's market. And when you start to get into the pre-offer stage of this process, we could better understand what an agreeable purchase price or initial purchase offer would be to submit to the seller. And then another thing to scrutinize greatly is what the list price to the actual sales price percentage is. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of homes for sale that are listed at a certain price, but when they close escrow, that's not the actual price it actually closes escrow for. It could sell for lower than asking price, say in a buyer's market, or it could sell for higher than asking price in a seller's market. And then we also wanted, one thing that's not up on my screen is what were the concessions, meaning that was there any credits giving from the seller to the buyer that would help that buyer, even though they paid a certain price, it would offset their net money into the purchase and help them close escrow a little easier financially speaking. So a real estate agent who is worth their salt can uncover all those items for you. And then when we get into making an offer, you and your agent are going to get together, and they're going to you guys are going to, based on that information I just discussed, as well as some offer research that the agent is probably, if they are worth the money that you're hiring for, they're going to research some things to help you make a better offer, and they're not just going to receive their commission just for writing any offer. What some of the things that agent might want to be asking the seller's agent or even the seller is, why are they selling? You want to get an idea of why that seller is selling the house. Or did they buy a new property and they have to sell because they already purchased another property and now they have two mortgages? Another reason why they're selling might be there's a divorce situation. There might have been a death and the estate is selling the property to liquidate the assets. There might have been the family or the seller has to move out of the area because they got a job in another area of the state or even out of state. There's a lot of reasons people sell property. Or are they just selling an investment property for whatever reason? But these reasons why people sell will help the buyer understand what the seller's motivation is, and then if they need to sell for some reason, you might be able to get by with a lower offer or than regularly they would accept if they could wait a while. We already talked about days on the market. If it's been on the market on the MLS for an extended period of time, that seller may be more willing to sell at a lower price. You never know, but you need to ask, how many showings has that property had? How many prospective buyers have gone and looked at the property and either didn't write an offer, and then if people wrote offers, how many were accepted? And if there wasn't any accepted, maybe the property is not. That's an indication that the property is not worth that much to the market, and they're coming in with offers that are below the asking price. That could be one reason, or there could be some material defects and some deferred maintenance which doesn't justify the asking price. These are just scenarios and not true statements necessarily, but these are just make-believe scenarios or possible scenarios that you could uncover during this process. And another thing is to ask, or you could figure out through public records, you could get an idea of the amount of loans that are on the property, and if the seller has any equity in the house, that may give you some idea of what their motivation is and how you can strategically write a purchase offer. Moving on to number 5, negotiations and contract. There's basically 5 things. Once you get your offer accepted, there's basically 5 things to consider as you negotiate the purchase contract. And this is pretty much what you write on your initial offer, and it could go back and forth between the seller and the buyer after the offer is submitted through addendums and such. But there's 5 or more negotiation points. And the things that we're negotiating is we talked about the purchase price. And number 2 would be closing costs, and if the seller would be willing to assist the buyer with the buyer's non-recurring closing costs, things that they can't assist you with paying taxes and things that recur, but they could assist you with non-recurring things like your title fees and inspection reports and so forth. A lot of time, and now with the buyer broker's representation agreement that I talked about at the beginning of this video, they may be able to assist with the buyer broker's commission fee and what we call buyer or seller concessions. And then there's also contingencies that could be negotiated in the contract, such as the inspection, the physical property inspection contingency, including the property inspection, the roof inspection, a sewer inspection. And then there's also the appraisal contingency and other contingencies based on the situation that can be negotiated. Another negotiation point is the actual deposit amount. That's more negotiable with the lender. But if it's an all cash deal, that could be a negotiation point. And then lastly, not last but not least, but there's some other negotiation points that could be that can be addressed during this period. But the last common one is establishing the close of escrow date. And the close of escrow date is important to consider from a financial standpoint on both the seller's side as well as the buyer's side. From a buyer's perspective, closing escrow on a certain date could mean when your next or your first mortgage payment will come due. And then the close of escrow date can affect the seller in the respect that maybe the seller needs time to find a new place to live. And they might need to extend the escrow period out to allow them to be able to find and put offers and have an offer accepted on a new residence, or they might need to get out of there sooner and want to close escrow sooner because they really need the money for some financial reason. So anyway, close of escrow date can be negotiated during this period. Another thing to consider is in once you enter into the contract, this is the time where the contract provides the timeline for all the things that are going to happen. When I talked about the contingencies and whole close of escrow timeline, that's pretty much outlined in the purchase contract, and it includes your financing when you need to have that established and secured, as well as your inspections, and your real estate agent will help you navigate through that process. Now, number 6, once you're in escrow, you're bound by your contract between the buyer and the seller, and there's a title company. Some areas real estate attorneys handle this, but in California a title company handles this but traditionally. And whether it's a real estate attorney or a title company, this is a independent third party who oversees the transfer of the property. The escrow officer at the title company will make sure the contract terms are upheld on both the seller side as well as the buyer side. There's required documents and signatures that need to be received. There is the funding from the lender that needs to be received. The deposits and the down payments are given, are provided to the escrow company and held in an escrow account. And the contingencies are waived once they are achieved and the buyer is satisfied with the outcome of whether it's inspections and, on the lender's case, the appraisal. And then the title company will transfer the property and provide a new grant deed to the buyer, which a grant deed is your ownership of the house or the property. And then the title company will also transfer the funds, including the deposit, the down payment, as well as the other funds that come from the mortgage company, from the lender to the seller, and conclude the transaction. Number 7 of this infographic talks about the final details during escrow. And again, that's what I talked about in terms of your due diligence, your escrow period, where you're getting your inspections, your appraisals, and your other required reports, and all the other due diligence that goes along during the escrow process. You'll be finalizing your loan with your lender during this time, and getting ready to become a new homeowner. And then once you reach that agreed upon closing date and all the agreements have been met and achieved, then you will close escrow. And as I said, the transfer of funds will be provided to the seller, and then the ownership will be transferred to the new buyer, and in the form of a grant deed, and then keys and occupancy will be given as agreed upon to the buyer. So congratulations. Now, when you finished all these steps, you're now a new homeowner. If you would like a copy of this infographic and some other additional resources, go ahead and text buyer. You don't have to include the quotes. Just text BUYER to 510-369-5080, and you can instantly download this infographic that's showing on the screen. Again, text buyer, BUYER, to 510-369-5080. And if you have any questions moving forward, you could go ahead and call me or text me at that same number. Just text me directly. Say, hey, Mike, I watched your buyer presentation or your buyer roadmap presentation, and I'm interested in learning more. You could also email me at this email address, or you could go to my website. I have some resources there, as well as I have a scheduling link if you want to schedule a no obligation phone call or a Zoom video conference. We could get on and talk to each other, or we could set an appointment by any of these means on the screen to meet in person. So I hope this presentation was helpful. If you have any questions, again, reach out to me. I'm here to help. And I wish you the best in your home buying journey down that road to home ownership. So until I speak to you, be well and happy house hunting.